on the Horn.
On thehorn.com.
This is the Hartford Online Radio Network. 21st Century Audio. Delivered.
On thehorn.com.
Live from the Glastonbury Studios right here. It's On the Horn and the Breakdown. We're joined by a cast of too many characters. Dave Moore is here, Caitlin the Goose Geisley here, and our good friend Doug LeVar Burton Hardy is here. Joining us very quickly on the Skype line is going to be Lon Seidman. Is he in Cape Canaveral, Lon?
No, he's here.
He's here.
Yeah, they delayed the launch till the 16th, so...
Now, I thought he was going to go down and check out the launch, but they delayed it before he left?
Yeah, it's you know, they use the phrase moving target. It's a moving target. So he's probably going to head down.
Is it the best phrase to use for the space shuttle is a moving target?
The launch
of the shuttle is a moving target. It's like a scud. No, it's not. That's a terrible thing. We have a great topic tonight about the damn cell phones here. You know, all these little cell phones. Like I got the iPhone, and you got. Do you have the iPhone or the Droid?
I got the.
Someone's got the Droid. Oh, you got the Samsung one. You got the old school one. You know, Google is in this thing now where they can track where you are, and it's kind of a little bit scary. Let's see if we can bring Lon in. He's already calling me. He's calling me before I'm calling him. Let's see. Is Lonnie there?
Hello.
Wow, you sound good, man. You sound better than I do.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sort of.
You sound great.
Okay.
Hey, thanks, buddy. So we were just talking about the craziness going on with the cell phones, and where does that right to privacy end, or is there really a right to privacy? And Google's having a little battle right now. I know you were doing a couple reports right now on the CT Tech Junkie, which, by the way, very cool website, right off of the CT News Junkie website. And are you gonna keep it on there to kind of brand it all together with the Photo Junkie and all that, Doug?
Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, you can go directly to it at CT Tech Junkie. It's got its own URL, but it's it's folded in so that we can track everything in the same place.
And that makes it easier.
Yeah.
So you guys are already very, very tech savvy and checking all of your hits,
working on it,
your page views and your viewed feeds and your subscription feeds and your downloads and all that kind of.
You really want to hear about the problems? I could tell you about the problems. Why the ads don't, pick one side or the other.
By the way, when am I getting this residual check from all these ads?
That's an excellent question.
Looking at my calendar, my iPhone doesn't actually go up to that year. Sore spot, obviously.
It's a good question. My attorney is in talks with, your people.
My people.
Yeah, who obviously are skimming because they're not telling you anything.
Oh,
funny, I haven't heard anything.
I was like, that might be our person.
Since you constitute my one people, I don't think it's going to be very good. So, Lon, tell me a little bit more about the privacy issues and the cell phones tracking exactly where you are and where you've been.
Sure. Well, this kind of erupted about 2 weeks ago now when some security researchers released the tool that allowed you to, and you can still do this. You can go on your computer, run this little program. It's on a Mac, of course, and it will find a database that your iPhone backs up. And that database actually has all of the locations that your phone has ever been to. And
so it's not just where you are currently, but wherever your iPhone has been. Like if I've gone 3 weeks ago, I was at a Walmart in wherever in Boston, and they're going to know that I was there.
Not to that degree of granularity, perhaps. I mean, it might have a dot there. What it actually is used for, and it's kind of a really intriguing thing that is coming out of this whole thing, is just how these phones so quickly determine where you are, even when you're indoors. So. Yeah. As you know, GPS is a satellite technology, and you really need to be out in the open for any kind of device to see enough satellites to determine its location. So what Google and Apple have done, and just about every cell phone manufacturer for that matter, is that your phone uses something called assisted GPS. It's called AGPS. And what it uses is things like cell towers and whatever GPS signals it can pick up to try to pinpoint where you are faster. So you need less satellites if you can pick up a cell tower and determine how far away another cell tower is, because if you know where the cell towers are located, you can kind of roughly triangulate your position, which is why if you have a first-generation iPhone without the GPS, you can actually get pretty close to where you are. But what's happened over the last couple of, probably about last year or two, is that Google and Apple have been collecting a database of Wi-Fi hotspots. So I don't know if you have a Wi-Fi over there at the On the Horn headquarters, but if you do, it is broadcasting itself out to the world. Even if you have it encrypted, it reports that, hey, I'm here, this is my identification number, and it's constantly broadcasting that out so that when your iPhone comes back in the building, it'll say, hey, I found the On the Horn Wi-Fi, would you like me to connect to it?
But I thought you could hide that.
You can. There are ways to do that. If you turn off, in your router settings, if you turn off the router's broadcasting of that, you could certainly stop that process. But most people don't, because they want their computer to find it when they come into the house.
So inside all of our little phones is this little database of all these little hotspots that we've been near, and it's just collecting those ad infinitum?
Yes, but what it's doing in both cases, both the Google and the Apple case, is that it is collecting that Wi-Fi access point's identification number, but it's also looking at its GPS coordinates, and it's sending that stuff to Apple and to Google separately. So if you have a Google phone, and your phone is going to Google with it. If your Apple phone is going to Apple with it. And what that does is that if you happen to be walking by some random place that has that identification number in Apple or Google's database, your phone will pinpoint its location a lot quicker because you have this spot that you know pretty much exactly where it is because somebody else was there before. So they've built these huge databases that allow these devices to really quickly pinpoint where they are. And there's a couple of other companies out there doing this as well. Doug has one of those Wi-Fi enabled digital camera cards, and it actually uses that similar database to determine where pictures were taken without having to use a GPS at all.
Inside his digital camera?
Yes, right. He has there's a, what do they call this?
It's called an iFi card. And basically,
great little cards.
I can set the thing to automatically broadcast anything I take, or I can set it to only broadcast the ones I choose with settings.
And where would it broadcast to?
Well, that's the trick. It doesn't just go willy-nilly anywhere. I'd have to set access in a particular Wi-Fi place. So, the value of this thing is when you're a reporter. It's a consumer product. It's really not meant for reporters. But as soon as I heard about it, I said, this is perfect for photography, news photography.
Yeah, absolutely.
So McDonald's has hotspots.
Yep.
And so I visited several in the area where I used to work. And so if I was out on the road and I caught a good photo right before deadline, I could get that to the newspaper within 2 minutes.
So it would just automatically, it's almost like instant email.
I just step into the Wi-Fi area in that McDonald's that I had set. I had to, you have to go in there first, and you have to make sure that you're receiving from that particular location. But to be honest, that was like a year and a half ago. It might actually just work in all the McDonald's now because the R&D on this was pretty fast.
Okay.
But yeah, it broadcasts.
So this, similar to all the cell phones, is keeping track. There it is. Doug is showing it in the camera there. There's a little orange, and it just looks like a memory chip.
Memory card, yeah.
Yeah, and
so that's an SD.
And it slides right in, and
it's 4 gig. I think they have 8 gig.
We'll tell you exactly where you were.
Yeah, but if you're going to shoot video and stuff in large images, it's going to take some time. You know what I mean? It's not that instantaneous. It is limited to Wi-Fi, but
still, what a
better than nothing right now.
Progression from.
So this, like in your camera, much like in your cell phones, and so these databases are being collected out there. And now, what is Google? It almost seems to me that Google is saying, "Hey, look, there's a way for you not to have that information about you compromised."
That's right. Although the way both Apple and Google have handled this is kind of, in my mind, a little questionable. So what Google does, and Google actually, to their credit, actually got back to me when I made a press inquiry unlike Apple, and Apple doesn't ever talk to anybody. They like that secretive thing. We'll tell you stuff when we feel like it kind of approach to it. But with Google, their press guy, Chris Gaither, who was emailing back and forth with me, said this is an opt-out thing. So you can set your phone. He says, I'm sorry, an opt-in thing that.
So by default, they're not going to do it unless you.
Well, that's the thing. You opt in to location services, and what location services are the kinds of searches you'll want to do with your phone, right? Like where's the nearest Starbucks next to where I am? So when you activate the phone, the Google phone will ask you, do you want location services? And if you answer yes to that question, it does pull up a screen where you can uncheck a box and not report your location to Google. But you have to uncheck it. So it's really opt-out in my mind. And basically, if you uncheck that box, it won't, at least they say, it won't broadcast back to Google what it's up to.
So almost every app that I have right now on this little iPhone 4, every time I open it for the first time, it says, hey, we'd like to use your location. Mm-hmm. Would you like to allow us, or do you not allow us to do this?
Right.
So that's what that is right there for the iPhone.
Not really.
No.
What the iPhone app, and this is actually an interesting distinction between how Apple and Google do things. On the Google phone, you can opt into location services as a whole and then exclude reporting to Google the location of the phone. What Apple does is if you turn on location services, you are sending them that data. Apple is getting that data. Now, both companies maintain that the data that you send them is completely anonymized, that there is no way at all that they'll ever be able to determine that that's your phone sending that information. So, but we have to trust them, really. There's no way to verify that because they're not going to release their code.
So can I just... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sure.
No, for layman's terms, just going back to, you said that in your article that they're quietly collecting the location data, and Apple and Google are both using this. So what are they using it for? Just to keep their bases upload? I mean, to progress further for themselves? Or, I mean, I'm just trying to understand from like a low-tech understanding.
Sure. Basically what it is that the more data that they collect, the faster your phone can figure out where it is.
It's kind of like you like cache when you're surfing the web.
Exactly, because what happens is that if you're walking by the On the Horn headquarters and you don't have a good GPS signal, but the phone says, hey, there's On the Horn's Wi-Fi and I got a full signal, it can say, hey, you know what? I'm at these GPS coordinates because, you know, somebody was by here a few months ago with a really good GPS signal and had few of this Wi-Fi hotspot.
So cross-references.
It's a crowdsourced
and
map.
Yes.
What it is. It's a crowdsourced map.
And that's exactly how the GPS stuff works when you do the traffic reporting. Mm-hmm. You know, in cars these days, you can get the service for how slow or fast the traffic is in a particular area. And how they're doing it is not by like figuring out how many cars are around. They're figuring out the speed of all the other little GPS devices and saying, are there a lot of GPS devices all crowded together, not moving very fast? Well, then that must be that it's very crowded down there as far as the traffic goes. It's brilliant stuff.
Mm-hmm. And Apple disclosed that they're actually doing that with their iPhones also. Which people were not aware of, that their phones were being used for that purpose either. And again, we just have to trust them that all this data is being anonymized. But in the case of your warning message that you get up on your iPhone, what that is giving the application you've run permission to access the iPhone's location API. So the way Apple works is that they have a very strict approval process for any application that comes into their application store. And they have very strict rules about how location data is shared, including having to, the operating system essentially allows you to share that data or not. So if you say to the Skype app that I don't want to share my location, it will not transmit that data to Skype. So you could say, hey, you know what? I really don't trust the On the Horn iPhone app, so I'm not going to tell them where I am.
And that would be a smart choice.
But you could, so you could give it to Doug. So
let's put this in perspective, Lon, in terms of 10 years ago, if you suggested to people that, you personally are going to download all kinds of applications onto your phone that are going to tell corporate entities that make these applications where you are at all times, they would have never done this.
It's the whole 1984 Orwell.
Right, thing. But now I'm looking at my phone here, okay, and I didn't realize there's literally like 6-7 dozen applications that are tracking my location. Some of them one of them, is, most of them are maps, but, map-oriented stuff. But some of them are Scrabble, words with friends. Why is that tracking my location?
Well, Words with Friends especially, because if you have the free version of Words with Friends, they have targeted geolocated advertising.
Exactly, and that's where I was going with this. Is the reality is there's probably nothing more sinister to this than just the desire to hammer you with ads that they know are going to be more effective. If
well,
I'm
they
walking
think they
by,
have a hunch that that's more effective. They
well,
don't really know.
They don't know, but they do know, because they're getting a lot of data on this stuff. Google in particular. I attended a panel a few months ago in New York. The guy that created Patch, former AOL guy, and one of the top Google search engine optimization people was there, and they're getting 40, 50, 60, 70% more response out of targeted types of advertising on Google, than other blind advertisements. So there is money to be made here. If I'm walking by a business and my phone beeps and says, "Hey, come on in," first I'm annoyed, but some people are going to do it. They're going to walk in.
The the apps are always going to be made because those guys are getting really rich off of these things. For 99 cents, you download an app, and I never even really think of it. I don't have 6 or 7 dozen like you have.
I can't believe how many are on here. I just looked at it for the first time. I've been, you pick up free applications.
I feel so inadequate all of a sudden, Doug.
I know. I think I have the ones that they just set me up with initially, and then maybe like 3 more.
But you know what? I don't know. I don't know if these are apps though. We have this thing called CardStar, which you can input all of your, like Barnes and Noble card or Stop and Shop card and that kind of stuff. Anything it's like a scanner. So, like if we go to Best Buy, I'll show you. I'll go to Best Buy. I don't know if you guys can see that in the flash, but it's like my little barcode. So instead of carrying that little barcode thing in my wallet, I don't have to do that. I can just go here. It's like, and whatchamacallit, the Starbucks has that too.
So then I'm thinking now, all these, I have about, like you said, good maybe 2 dozen that they sent. But these were on here when I bought the phone.
Oh, okay.
So then do you think that those are ones I have to go in and uncheck?
Well,
are you on an iPhone or on a?
I'm on a Samsung Fascinate from Verizon.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Google is that the big thing today in the testimony that I took out of it. I was reading some of the reports from the testimony of the Senate today. So it was a big hearing in the Senate about this very issue, and the difference between Apple and Google was pretty striking in that Google said, "Hey, we're building a database for the good of all mankind. It's open, it's accessible, it's anonymous, it's great. Come on in, join the party. We let you do essentially what you want to do." And Apple said, "Hey, wait a minute. Our approach is we're taking this data very seriously, and we're not going to let the world just go in and access it." So the takeaway is really that no phone is totally immune to any kind of snooping by any evil developer. Right. But the Apple folks might catch it quicker than the Google folks will, just from the standpoint that there are many application stores for the Android phone. You don't have to use Google's store. You can go to other places to get applications for the phone. So the policing of how that data is used is not as...
It's the Wild West.
It's a little bit more Wild West. Yeah, it's more Windows and Macintosh. It really is the comparison.
The other thing is that, and there's not going to be a man in a white hat, to quote one of the recent radio commercials, because it is that Wild West, and the government doesn't have people smart enough, and not nearly enough of those people.
They all work for the companies.
It's going to be the sweaty, unshaven guy on the credit card commercial that refuses to answer the phones. That's the guy that's handling this stuff.
You got 50 cents.
You got 50 cents. Hello, this is Gladys.
There really is. It's a dangerous area.
So why do we all have the cell phones?
On these phones?
Clearly, none of us. We say doom and gloom here, but we all have them. What do you have?
Oh yeah,
I have a Droid.
You have a Droid. You have iPhone. You have your Samsung. Lon, I know, has about 15 different iPhones and iPads, and
I only use one at a time.
Is that how it is?
That's how it is. Okay. This is something too that no one is talking about, and it should be. The fact is that for years, as long as there have been cell phones, the cell phone companies can find out where you are whenever they're asked, and they have on a regular basis given to authorities locations of their customers even before all these phones had GPS units on them. So in many ways, it's nothing new. It's just that we now have much more accurate location data than we had before. And
not only that, there's a memory involved. David, counselor, in a divorce case, attorneys can subpoena.
Yes,
Private attorneys can, like law enforcement has to get permission from a judge to subpoena records.
Yep.
Right.
They would have to go through the state's attorney's office to get an application for a subpoena.
Right.
Whereas a private counsel can just issue the subpoena.
Okay.
Boom.
So everybody keep your spouses happy because they can just hire a lawyer and they can get all your phone records.
I was about to dive into the world of law, and then I would realize that that's a terrible idea.
Now we're saying that they can just track us. They're not able. They're claiming they're not able to access personal information. Is that?
Well,
but if they can, it seems
Lon
like
spoke
they
to
would
this
be able
in
to
the
get.
story a little bit. What
Yeah.
they're saying is they're saying that it's not connected to your identity. It's like a, what is it, Lon? It's like you
Well,
use the term
you said
anonymized, which is an
Use term
interesting term.
anonymized.
Which is not a word, I don't think.
Here's
He
what
put it in
the
quotes.
the Wall Street Journal, and there's a link to this in the article. The Wall Street Journal hired some hacker guy to look at what the phone is transmitting, and there's ways that you can do that. And their findings were that the Android phones, at least, were transmitting a unique identifier that wasn't tied to the phone, so you couldn't say, that's Brian's number. Right. But it's assigning a number to itself, and it's transmitting that number. So that number 47221 is at this location right now.
Right.
I asked the Google guy about that. I said, what if somebody got a hold of that unique identifier and subpoenaed that? And his response was really not very detailed. In fact, he said he wasn't going to go any further until the hearing.
Okay.
I'm not going to show my cards here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And who are you again?
Yeah, exactly. What are you, CT Tech Junkie? What the hell is that? So he
Is that some quasi-government agency?
Quasi-government agency. But he said that the Wall Street Journal's report was erroneous. So take it for what you will. The fact is we have no way of knowing at all. And even if we did know what the phone operating system was doing, certainly in the case of Google, with so many different application providers with a totally open platform, you don't really know what your phone is doing, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
so
you don't.
You really, I think it's going to require some education on behalf of users to look at that. But back to the subpoena thing, though. The fact is that in any case, forever, it's always been the case that the cell phone companies will turn over your location even if Google isn't able to.
Right.
So you have to be really careful about that. And if you're Osama bin Laden, you're probably wishing you hadn't turned on that cell phone.
Yeah. He's probably down there with all sorts of discarded cell phones.
Yeah.
So true.
He actually had one
ringing at the
sewn
same
into his garment.
Yeah, with money and stuff.
Yeah, €50.
Apparently, they were tracing this courier. Everybody in the world knows this, I'm sure, but he didn't even put a battery in his phone until he was at least 90 miles away. Mm-hmm. So they probably figured out exactly on a map
From a triangulation aspect.
Yep. There's a big empty area here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty
Very,
remarkable.
very interesting. Let us take, I know you want to get in there, Dave, but let us take a quick little music spotlight here, and we'll come back with Doug Hardy and Lon Seidman from CT Tech Junkie. Right now, local music spotlight in retrospect and hypnotize.
Every time I look into your eyes, I feel like I'm hypnotized. Even though you're so untrue, you've got me hypnotized. You really knock me down to size. Every time that I look into your eyes, you've got me hypnotized.
Budwitz & Meyerjack PC is a large Connecticut-based CPA firm with offices in Cheshire and Farmington, Connecticut. Large enough to handle engagements of enterprises with annual revenues in excess of $100 million, yet small enough to cater to smaller businesses and individual clients who expect personalized attention from partners and staff. Client service is the cornerstone of our practice. Our clients have a fixed fee for their audit and tax work. What this means to the client is we're approachable. Personal communication and client services make for strong relationships. Budwitz & Meyerjack, certified public accountants.
And the Emmy goes to Stats Magoo.
This is Mr. Magoo's first Emmy for an internet podcast. Recently, he came in second place in the Moodus County Fair Chili Cook-Off, and in 1973 was awarded the Sportsmanship Honorable Mention for 5th grade badminton.
Wow, what a shock. I'm just so overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. I mean, got so many people to thank. Wait, I have to thank people.
That was Stats Magoo.
I love you, Mom.
Congratulations, Stats. Coming up next, Justin Bieber sings Smells Like Teen Spirit. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is the Candid Conservative with today's Candid Minute. Osama bin Laden is dead. He's been living the life of a dead man for 10 years, and now the journey's complete. Unfortunately, the terror war he started continues. In fact, it can be argued that he won. For 10 years, he's had us spending zillions of dollars to keep his minions at bay. Worse, we've pumped up today's military at the expense of tomorrow's military. Put the threat of bin Laden on a scale with China's growing power, and our short-sightedness quickly becomes apparent. Then there's the matter of partying down on his demise. Though relief is understandable, celebration has us imitating Islamists after the collapse of the World Trade Center. Proverbs offers guidance on this matter. Rejoice not when your enemy falls, and let your heart not be glad when he stumbles. Comedian Moms Mabley once offered similar advice. My mother told me to never say anything bad about the dead. Well, okay, he's dead. Good. Enough said. I'm Dr. Carl Mumpower, thanking you for spending a minute with a Candid Conservative.
Dr. Mumpower's appearance is courtesy of CT News Junkie. No, just kidding.
Mr. Rogers on the right.
Is he from Connecticut?
No, he's a Southern boy.
Really?
Yeah.
You couldn't tell with that
That
accent?
wasn't a whole lot.
He was a former state senator and state rep from, I think, Georgia?
He reads well.
Well, you know, and that's important when you're doing that kind of thing.
That's right. That's correct.
It's always nice to have you in studio, Doug.
Sure. I'm
You know, we don't really do this
scintillating,
enough.
Analysis here.
We really don't do this enough. Global Indemnity Insurance is a full-service surety bond agency. Our goals are simple service and support. Surety is our only business. Global Indemnity only represents T-listed A-rated companies, large or small, contract or commercial. All your bond requests and needs can be accommodated by Global Indemnity. And we are talking about all sorts of cool tech stuff here. And we got some folks in the chat room.
Yes, we've had Christine and I interacting, and Rick from West Hartford as well.
Rick WH, Rick Whitehouse.
He was wondering whether or not the cash register was actually located at the state capitol. And Christine was noting that with this wonderful technology that we were talking about before, there could be an issue with warrantless wiretaps, and then she noted that there was a skunk in the neighborhood.
It's a good thing I left the house.
Okay, well, you know, we appreciate all your...
Exactly where that skunk is.
You know exactly where the skunk is?
Yeah, he's got a GPS locator.
Lon Seidman is also joining us on the Skype line. Lon, we are talking all sorts of tech stuff about the phones, but, you know, one of the great things about getting these phones is, well, one of the genesis things is that they came from space travel. And they came from our NASA space program, as many things, not just Velcro, did. And you have been trying, and Doug, to see Endeavour go up for its final flight, the penultimate flight of the orbiter program. And I guess today was maybe going to launch, but no, now they've pushed it back more.
Yeah. They. It's funny. I was out there for Discovery's launch, and that was even worse because we hoped it was going to go up in October, and we didn't actually see it until February. So it's a very complicated machine.
Sure.
And that is why it's so expensive, and it's sad to see it end. But Doug and I really had some eye-opening visits to some of the commercial launch providers that are going to be filling in the void of the shuttle once it's discontinued or
what's
or
the
phased out.
what's the big one? SpaceX, I think, is the big one.
SpaceX is the one we saw. Really fascinating, and Doug and I were, the whole time we were there, is all we could really talk about. It's just such, you have this impression of what these big government contractor aerospace firms are like, and they are not like any of it. It was founded by the guy that founded PayPal, and he made a lot of money selling PayPal to eBay. eBay hasn't been able to make that kind of money back from PayPal, but he took that money, he put it into Tesla, which is the electric car company, and he put a lot of it into SpaceX. And they claim, and again, this is a private company, so we're not going to have all the documents available to us for this, but they claim that for $800 million, they've developed essentially 3 different rocket systems, launch pads in 2 locations, one in the Pacific and one at Cape Canaveral Air Station. They have 1,300 employees and a bunch of facilities across the country, and they design and build 80% of these rockets in-house at their facilities. And the turnaround time is pretty amazing. From if there's a problem, they can actually pull it down, bring it back in the building, fix it, put it back out again, and have it flying in under 2 hours.
Yeah, it's like you get the impression that they're planning on launching a rocket every 20 minutes. It's this crazy.
Yeah,
they can put up a pace, but I don't think they have that many rockets.
And was it when I was talking to you today? I can't even remember that. One of the sad things about the space shuttle program, the orbiter program, was that as soon as it launched the very first time, it was made obsolete just because it was too expensive. And there's a great.
I may have exaggerated a little bit, but it was obsolete pretty quick, though, because of the cost.
And it was, and there's a great story of why that large fuel tank in the middle there is orange. Does anyone know why that is orange while the other ones are white?
CT News Junkie orange?
It is CT News Junkie orange.
They actually painted the first fuel tanks.
That's right. And they, suddenly discovered that, hey, you know what, we're not reusing those. And so the cost of painting that orange tank, why do it? We're not going to reuse it. If it corrodes, we're done with it. So that stuff just falls to the earth. I guess that actually lasts a little bit longer. Do those, Lon, at what point does that detach? I mean, you have the SRB, the solid rocket boosters on the side, but that main fuel tank stays with the orbiter for a little longer, right?
Yeah, it actually follows the orbiter into orbit.
Okay.
So when they cut the main engines off is when they cut fuel to the tank. And actually, I was reading NASA actually put out a really great history book on the shuttle program, and it's available for free online. And of course, I'm not prepared for class, so I don't have the link for it at the moment, but I will find that before the show ends, hopefully.
Okay.
But one of the things in the book, in fact, I was reading it last night, was that making a disposable fuel tank actually brought the cost down of the program enough to actually make the whole thing feasible. Because they initially wanted to reuse the tanks also, but they found that if they can ditch the tank in the ocean after it burns up in the atmosphere, then they can effectively made the program work for as long as they made it work for. But that follows it all the way to orbit. That contains the fuel for those main engines that light about 4 or 5 seconds before liftoff, and it's I think it drains the equivalent of a swimming pool like every second.
Just incredible. I mean, you think of the thrust that's needed. I mean, and that's the balancing act, is the not just the weight of the orbiter, but also the weight of the fuel to get it up there. Yep. So it can, I mean, just the fuel itself is a hindrance. So the life of the space shuttle at launch is, 3, 2, 1, and it lifts off. 15 seconds in, you'll see the iconic roll maneuver where it kind of rolls over on its back, and then it zooms up, and then you have solid rocket booster.
Is that called gimbaling?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it?
I saw the word somewhere while I was down there, and I thought,
is that what it was?
That's when it rolls.
They called on the actual script though. They actually say initiate roll maneuver.
Right.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe not. I don't know.
And then you detach the SRB solid rocket boosters, and then as Lon was saying, up as it gets into orbit, you have the main engine cutoff or MECO, and that's I guess when they ditch that big orange tank. And then now, do we know how the orbiter moves around in space? Do you remember from your history lessons?
Retro rockets.
Okay,
It's got
only
the,
if you're Buck Rogers.
It's
It's actually the
right?
OHM system, the orbital maneuvering system. Right?
OHM system is absolutely correct. Orbital maneuvering system. Great stuff.
How zen-like.
Yeah, they sent the right guy to this launch thing, I think. So you'll have to
brilliant.
come to the next one, Brian.
The engines.
I would love it.
Going.
Hey, if you can find a way for me to do it. Oh, look at this. Rick from West Hartford knew what MECO meant too.
Yep.
That's great. Good for you.
That's good.
Good
You
for
know,
you.
it's stuff.
We're all space junkies here. I love it.
You know what was really amazing?
There's a
though,
website, CT Space Junkie. What do you think?
There you go. We should launch. You know, we've done
Write
so
it
much
down.
space stuff that we
right
should
now.
just launch its own channel at this point.
I think you should.
get
Christine, I
lost.
see you in the chat room. Can you go get that CT Space Junkie domain name? That'd be great.
Yeah,
Thanks,
before
man.
somebody else snatches it up, right?
Lost in space.
You know,
Anyways.
we
one
have like
thing though
50
that
different
really
domain names that we're maintaining.
I was there for Discovery's launch, and I was there for the at that point for NASA's Twitter thing that they do. They have a tweet up that I was fortunate enough to get picked to go on, and you're 3 miles away from where the shuttle lifts off,
Right.
which is actually the closest you can get from it, and the power is just unbelievable. That here's this thing 3 miles away from you, getting lifted off the ground. It's a 3-story building, essentially, 4.5 million pounds at liftoff, and it is so loud that your clothes shake.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
3 miles away, huh?
Yeah, it's just.
This is why I want to go. I want to make sure I see the last one. If I can't get to the next one, I'm going to go to the Atlantis.
Let's do that. I mean, I think we could probably. Well, I don't know.
You'd probably get clearance. Maybe
I could maybe use a Coast Guard connection or two.
you might. Yeah.
Are there any Coast Guard astronauts? Do we know?
gotta be
you
connected.
should have applied. You could have been the first.
I could have been. I
they-
could have been somebody.
They do have Coast Guard patrols in the area. You could probably hook onto one of those little boats, Be kind of fun.
Another note here in terms of that sound, and well, actually, Lon, you told me this, but if you look at the close-up images of the shuttle before as it's launching, they're dumping water on the orbiter.
Yep.
And the reason why they do that is not to cool it off, right, Lon? It's to block the sound. Because
Yeah,
if you're within a quarter mile of those engines, just the sound, the decibels, will rip you to shreds. It'll kill you.
Yeah, we had one of the things they let you do is they let you go out to the launch pad before the shuttle launches, of course, to set up remote cameras. So you can set up a camera with a timer and have it take shots of the shuttle at liftoff. And I asked the guy, one of our media guides there, I said, so what would happen if the thing were to lift off right now? He goes, you'd be dead. He said the vibration
That's
alone
incredible.
would shake you to death.
Right. You
And-
don't want to be
but
an
the-
alligator out there.
No.
No.
And actually, that's the single most risky thing about putting your camera out there is that occasionally the alligators might have their way with them. But you can let your own imagination figure out what that is. But they dump a
alligators.
lot of water on there, mainly to protect the shuttle from getting shaken apart at liftoff, and that's what they use it for.
It's incredible. And then coming back down. First of all, I've never actually understood this window thing. I kind of when the orbiter comes back down, it can't go too steep. Because it will just the tiles will heat up so much that it'll just burst into flames, and they can't go too shallow on its belly because they'll just skip off the atmosphere and go. But I never understood the window is sort of a different thing. Is the window just sort of a spot in the atmosphere where you want to try to go in properly, so as you get through the atmosphere you can make it to wherever your landing strip is? Is that what the window is?
Well, for launch windows, it's actually based on what the mission is. So there's a whole host of things that can come into play for that. Space junk is sometimes an issue. What's orbiting through that hole that you gotta pop in through. But in the case of most of these late shuttle missions, it's been connecting with the International Space Station because the space station is moving at 17,500 miles an hour. and you have to make sure when you launch that the space station's in the right spot so that you can catch up with it.
Now that's a sports car.
And exactly. And you've got about 10 minutes to launch the shuttle and be in the window. So if you miss that window, then you've got to wait a little bit longer. And what's complicating it even further is that there are 4 countries, including us, sending vehicles to the International Space Station to resupply it. So there's traffic problems with all these cargo ships docking and undocking from these are unmanned ships with the exception of the Russian Soyuz capsule. But that you have traffic issues, and then you also have another problem with the shuttle in that there's a point in time of just in almost a seasonal or monthly thing where the shuttle is in the sun too much, and it doesn't have the ability to burn off some of the excess heat that it's absorbing from the sun when it's out in the sun on a certain angle. So in the case of Discovery, that was why, in addition to all the technical problems they had to delay it into February from an October-November launch date because it was going to fall into that period of time. If the shuttle was out orbiting on its own, they can do what one of the launch directors called barbecuing, which is they actually have the shuttle just kind of spin around in orbit to bleed off some of the heat it was absorbing. But they can't do that when they're docked. So there's a lot of factors that go into...
Very cool.
Incredible amount of detail.
See, now I did not know that. They were still building a space station when I was a young lad, learning about the space program. Very cool stuff. What's also fascinating is that, it comes down to it just falls, and it's
really
basically
flying.
a glider
Right.
in a rock,
we had the chance to talk to some experts down there, and it was, for me, it was kind of fascinating because, like a lot of Americans, I kind of zoned out on the space program because they made it routine at one point, and the reality is it's never been routine when there's people involved.
Oh yeah,
people have died. So this thing that when they launched
and the sad thing is
one,
it's certainly challenging, but I think it's the until people die again,
Doesn't make
then
news,
it's not
yeah.
newsworthy.
But
And
the
shame
first
on
launch,
us.
the first launch was basically the test launch with astronauts on it.
Oh yeah,
That's guts, But the sad thing is, I'm maybe our audience is tech savvy enough that the people who are listening to podcasts probably know this space shuttle program is ending, but most Americans don't know it. They don't realize this.
This is the second to last one,
Yeah.
and then which orbiter is going to be the last?
Atlantis.
Okay, which is unusual because Endeavour is the youngest.
That's
Correct.
right.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, it's an amazing program. They spent $9 billion on the next step, the Constellation program, and didn't have enough to show for it that the president was willing to continue the program. So
Well, I mean,
that's why they're moving into commercial space flight.
the problem I think there is that it's going to be tough to get funds back to NASA.
Right. For a while.
Yeah, for a good period.
They
of time.
think this is basically the commercial lift. They call it. There's a number of names. The commercial crew launch market is what they're calling it. This is sustainable.
Right. Well, I mean, since the early 90s, the main goal has been we want to have one vehicle that will launch into space and come back with all of the same parts, only missing fuel.
Right. It's not realistic.
And they can't figure out how to do that. And there's a lot of clever ideas out there. It's just the science I don't think is quite there yet. It's got to be possible.
Well, it's possible, but
we
so many
sent,
things that
my
have
iPhone
to
is
go
more
into that, though.
sophisticated than what we used to go to the moon. Talk
Yeah.
about guts. Oh.
one of the thing is that the shuttle has the heat shield on it and it's exposed while they're going up, right, Lon? It's the idea is that with the rockets, the capsules, that heat shield is protected because it's hidden during launch.
That's right.
So meanwhile, they've created a thing that looks like an airplane.
Right.
And it's just not realistic. Your tiles take abuse on the way up, and we lost one. So it's not realistic. I think they'll build a platform up there to build another spacecraft up there, and that will be a very different thing. It won't look like an airplane.
Huh.
Right. What's going to happen is, and it was actually interesting too. And the book, by the way, is called Wings in Orbit, and you can actually download the PDF of it, so you don't have to buy it if you don't want to, but I'm sure it looks nicer in hardcover. But one of the things that they talked about in constructing the shuttle was that in order to get it funded, they needed to make a deal with the military so that it could carry military payloads. And you'll recall a number of missions before the Challenger accident actually did that. And they had a single vehicle that lifted cargo and crew. The new approach is going back to the way things really kind of were before, which was you have human-rated vehicles, and then you have heavy lift vehicles that do some of the other big stuff. And one of the things that NASA's developing is a monster rocket that will lift payloads that we've never been able to lift before, using shuttle technology. And that's going to probably survive the cut of the Constellation program. And other launch providers like SpaceX will have their own heavy lift vehicles that lift less weight but do it cheaper. So I think we're going to see a lot more stuff hauled into orbit over the next couple of years, and we'll see longer range missions. NASA can now focus on those things because really they've been the shuttle's trips to the space station is the equivalent of driving a semi truck to take your kids to school in the morning. It's just more than you need. So we're going to see a significant reduction, presumably, in the cost of getting astronauts to and from the space station and into orbit. And that money that's freed up can be used to go out into longer distance missions. And the next one they want to do is actually go to an asteroid. Right. So they're bypassing the moon.
Right.
Bruce Willis style, like that movie Armageddon, right? You're going to go to the comet. And
let's get some drilling done.
Let's get some. Yeah.
Hey, listen. If they find oil on the asteroid, we're going to the asteroid. Right,
I just want to make sure the asteroid doesn't hit us. Okay.
Hi-yo, Halliburton.
I mean, they'll be getting the oil off the asteroid right up until the minute it hits us. Right?
Yeah. So. Well, it'd be a shame to waste all that oil.
God. On the other hand, if we let the asteroid land, we could find a lot of oil real easy, unless it blows up.
Yeah. Well, they would probably do that.
So the space shuttle was never even capable of going to the moon.
That's right.
No.
But people,
it's an
a lot of
orbiter.
people don't know that.
Yeah, that's definitely not common knowledge, I wouldn't think.
Right. I mean, in the ridiculous, smarmy but entertaining Armageddon film, they had the two secret shuttles that had different capabilities and were able to zip around the moon and then bob and weave through all the debris and land on the asteroid. And
good Lord,
and this is ridiculous.
Well, and the only real reason that they can't do that is that those, as Lon said, those ohm burners. There's not enough fuel for them to do that.
Right. You're gonna.
I mean, these are little bursts,
right,
just to kind of get you going.
It's funny. A friend of mine is a scientist, used to work at Los Alamos, and he lived in the next town over. And you're talking about a community of people who commute to Los Alamos every day. Mm-hmm. Average IQ has got to be $180, maybe.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So the movie theater, you go in there and you watch a movie, and there's laughter at weird moments. Because they're just watching the movie and laughing hysterically at the nonsense that they're seeing up there. Like with the average person, the layman would be like,
"That's cool."
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what movie I found?
Can't enjoy a movie with those people.
Scientifically, more or less accurate, and was a historically accurate recounting was Apollo 13.
I thought you were going to say the King's Speech. Damn.
No.
That's good though.
Apollo 13, where you really got a sense of what the hell was happening and why it was so tricky, because they had no idea if they could get these guys back, even if they shot them around the moon.
Right.
And the astronauts had no idea what the hell they were doing. They were literally making it up as they went, because nobody had a book on this. Nobody had a plan for what would happen if one of the oxygen tanks blew.
Well, the thing too, we were saying people don't know, that the shuttle can't bob and weave, and it's you think, well, my iPhone is better than that. It's just we take for granted all of those factors. That
they must have figured
work
that out.
Well,
by
yeah,
now,
obviously, we think, oh, well, someone out there figuring it out, but I mean, really, the amount of things that have to go right for it to all happen.
Right. And, they probably manufacture these iPhones in a similar clean room type of environment.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's funny. We have a consumer product that probably has as much care that went into the development as a lot of these things.
I do not disagree whatsoever, especially with the new white iPhone 4. I don't know if you've
It's a miracle
seen
technology.
Those. They have a white one now.
Really?
Did you know?
That's quite a change.
It's like a little space shuttle tile.
A story came out not too long ago talking about clean rooms, about there had been this piece of equipment that they had collected from the moon, and it had bacterium on it.
Oh, right.
and they thought, oh my God, there's life on the moon.
Right.
Turns out they investigated and found out that the clean room protocol wasn't exactly what it was supposed to be. It was actually Earth contamination.
Yeah.
We did it. Oops.
Crazy. You know, we visited Hamilton Sunstrand where they make the spacesuits.
The spacesuits, yeah. What a cool place that is.
Well, you know, they don't let you step on certain parts of the floor without the right kind of shoe because you could be carrying electrostatic discharge and you could destroy a circuit board by accident.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know,
it's the littlest things.
Some of the cleanest clean rooms, this might surprise you, are in what country?
Not America.
China.
Really?
Oh,
China, for clean manufacturing, more and more companies are going over to China.
Wow.
And they are just impeccably clean.
Yeah.
They got that going for them, which is nice.
Good to know.
All right. Well, that was a fun show. I wish you guys great luck with the CT Tech Junkie. Are you going to venture into the... I mean, it seems like a logical thing to do a little podcast on.
Yeah.
Tech Junkie kind of thing.
Yeah, Lon's committed.
Lon's committed.
And we did that test episode. I thought it came out pretty nice.
Except for
I did see the test episode. You know, but the only bad thing is you definitely need a producer because anytime that Doug was talking, Lon's eyeballs, you can see them moving across his screen to try to move. So it was funny. Like, oh, well, he's talking now. I'm going to go look something up, and then I'm going to adjust it. Then all of a sudden you see like Doug's frame, you like move just a little bit.
Yeah, apparently I was much closer in the frame too.
Well, you kept doing this thing where you would move really close and then really far back.
I just want you to see my pores.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Doug.
I want you to really get to know me.
Hi.
Well, I said to Doug, I said, you got to move back. He's like, what are you talking about? I can't even see myself in the thing anymore.
It's not about you.
It's about the quality of the show.
What's that?
That was a poor comment.
I was already like 3 feet away. I mean, you know, I was like, how far? I don't have much room in the little office here. You know.
Oh goodness. Oh, look at this nice little comment. Local and accurate. CT News Junkie says Rick from West Hartford. Is he like a groupie of yours?
Well, thanks, Rick. No, I've chatted with him during your shows, though.
Oh, okay.
He's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. We like Rick.
Yeah.
He's a reader.
Come join
I'm
us.
very happy with him.
Rick's a reader. Ranger Rick Reader from West Hartford. All right.
Talk about a blast from the past.
Hey, very special thanks. Thanks, guys, for being here. Very special thanks to Global Indemnity Insurance, the May Cookie Company. Check them out at maycookie.com. Sandwich Travel, get the heck out of here. The accounting firm of Budowitz and Meyer, Jack and Sherpa Technologies. What's up, Blazman? The Internet Specialists. Next week, we have... I don't remember.
Theater Works?
Hey, guess.
No, we already did them last week.
Yeah, ask him. Ask this guy here.
Oh, really?
What was the backup to...
It was the backup to Nancy Wyman.
It was the backup to Wyman because there was a possibility that she couldn't make it. And
Tune in for an exciting show next week, I promise.
Suspenseful.
And you know what? Tune in next week because we are giving away, I kid you not, $100 in gift cards to Black Eyed Sally's. $100 next week. So you got to tune in for that. We're going to make it really easy. Like,
it's fantastic.
And no, the hosts can't win either.
And they're jambalaya.
And the hosts can't win either. And the jambalaya is fantastic. Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks very much. Doug, great to be here. Lon, thanks so much for tuning in, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
And Dave, catch you later, baby. And Caitlin, we will see you. Are you almost done with school or what?
One more week, guys. One more week. Cheer me on.
All right, one more week.
3 more exams.
We'll see you later, guys. Bye-bye.